Aleka Bilan, and I'm an associate certified academic coach with Coach Training EDU. I work globally with young people, and I'm currently based in Bend, Oregon. I really believe in the power of stories and the importance of owning your own story, of understanding your own story, of knowing all the hurt that could happen in your story, as well as the celebrations. So my story absolutely impacts why I do what I do. Because I was raised overseas. I have 2 passports, and I spoke 3 languages before 1st grade. So I'm known as a third culture kid, which is known as a TCK, and we operate not in our home or passport culture, and we're not fully part of the host country culture where we happen to be living at that moment, but we're sort of in this limbo of a third culture of and it really takes a toll on our sense of belonging. And a lot of TCKs have many, many moves in their birth to age 18. And those moves include lots of loss and grief and saying goodbye to people and places. And so a TCK profile, you have a lot of really great things like multilingual attributes and a very international mindedness thing. But you also sometimes lack roots or feeling of a sense of belonging. So my father was raised this way, and then I was raised this way, and now my kids are third generation TCKs. So I'm parenting in this way. And so the students that I want to work with also have had this kind of lived experience. And so I understand their story and I understand their experience and their lived experience in a way that I can really connect and relate and say, no, you know what, that thing that you're feeling, that's okay. That's the impact of this life on us. And what I want to do is what we've learned in the research is that if you manage transitions, if you manage these multiple moves like a diplomat kid is going to have, or someone who's a missionary kid or a military kid, and if we know about these moves and we manage the emotions of the moves, then everything else goes up. They have a much better ability to learn and to take in information. They can be flourishing and thriving adults, but you have to understand your story and the backdrop of your story, and you have to be able to share your story with other people. And so I actually didn't really understand my story until about my 20s, and I hadn't shared it because I had tried to just sort of blend in and keep a low profile every new place that I went to and every new school that I went to. And, then owning my story and sharing my story built these connections that I honestly think that we can build this network of connections across humanity and the world will be a better place. I was a school counselor for a long time. So I've worked in international high schools for over 25 years. And what I loved most about being a counselor is that one-on-one with an adolescent, with a teenager. And so coaching to me seemed, once I found it, it seemed like the next right step because it was exactly what I loved. It was that one-on-one honor of standing alongside an adolescent as they are forming their identity. And that was just so cool to me. And then when I researched a little bit more into Coach Training EDU and saw that they had a more student-focused program, I really appreciated, and the fact that it was grounded in positive psychology. Like, I'm so interested in positive psychology and the ability to use character strengths and to use gratitude practice. I found that that's really helped with teenagers in my work in schools. And so coming out of schools, I felt like that was a really great option for me, and I'm just really loving it. I really feel like I've landed now in my coaching business and landed in being a coach. So it's very clear to me who I am serving. And those are cross-cultural teens. I really want to help them flourish and thrive. And that's what it's all about. It's this endless group of young people who are trying to navigate across cultures, who are trying to transition across cultures, and helping them own their own stories and share their stories and really enter adulthood in a very strong position. I want to really help cross-cultural teens to thrive. I am a third culture kid myself. My father was a third culture kid. I know sort of the pain that comes with the grief of moving a lot and having to say goodbye to a lot of people. I also have lived and interacted with many different cultures as a white Latina. And so I want to help others with understanding that it's a difficult journey, but it's just absolutely boundless in its possibilities. I think that the important thing to understand about coaching and what I had to come to terms with in my classes was how it differs from other parallel options. You know, how, so I think that someone who wants to become a coach really needs to understand that and read up on that a little bit of how it's different from therapy, from mentoring, from consulting, even from school counseling, from counseling, and how, or from being a faculty advisor or an advisor on a university campus, that it dovetails really nicely with that, but it really, in its technique and its in foundation and its approaches, stands quite apart from it. So I would say, even like before just jumping into this coaching bubble, really look at, okay, well, what are you looking for? And is coaching what is going to resonate the most with you? Or are you trying to make coaching, um, are you trying to make one of these other things into what you think coaching might be? Okay, there are a lot of people younger than me. And honestly, it'd be really simple what I would tell someone younger than me. And it is live, learn, repeat. Coaching for teenagers, I think you have to explain a little bit more, because young people and adolescents particularly aren't really used to having someone listen to them and aren't used to necessarily digging in deeper and figuring out how they tick and how they work. So one of the best things about coaching teenagers for me is that it's very much about identity development in a cross-cultural way. So it's not just about who am I, but it's about who am I in connection with those around me and with the world. The great thing about coaching, which I didn't realize before signing up for Coach Training EDU, was that you really must do your own work in order to be your best self for others. And so I have to be open and clear and vulnerable and say that coaching has really helped me move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Like, I really was raised as a fixed mindset person. And as a parent, my spouse is a very growth mindset individual. And he really helps our children be more growth mindset. But I was quite a fixed mindset person. And going through coaching programs and really having a massive career shift that has landed me into coaching has brought me into the endless possibilities of coaching, and has opened me up to the possibilities of this growth mindset of constantly learning and constantly improving. And particularly in starting a business as an educator, I've never took business classes. I didn't come from that background. It was a very scary territory for me. But what I appreciate about Coach Training EDU is that the building a coaching practice, building a business is right alongside with learning how to be a coach. And so there's some really good guidance there. Um, and there's a lot of failure. Like, I had to really, with setting pricing, with figuring out marketing, with who the clientele is. There's a lot of failure that I went through after 27 years of being pretty much at the top of my game. And so I had to really embrace that failure is an opportunity for learning, which was not in my DNA before. One thing that I'm learning through the coaching journey is that, you know, I think that I came from a role very much where had worked really, really hard to be an expert in my field. And expertise was a big badge that I wore around. But I think that the wonderful thing that I love about coaching is that we are not the experts as the coach, that the client is the expert on themselves. And so you just like give in and give way to that. And so it became, I've been really reflecting on this lately, that it changed from something that was professionally very ego driven, very about me and how I can use my knowledge to help others. And then coaching has really shifted to a very in service to others work. It's like, how can I be here to help you figure out what you want? And so it's not about me. And that was a really big paradigm shift at first because I come from, decades and decades in high schools. And now being in this coaching role, it's just really lovely. It's very freeing just to be like, hey, man, you're just figuring yourself out as a teenager and you've got this. Like, you are not broken. You have everything inside you to figure out what you need to do. And I'm just here to hold your hand and go along with you on this. During my training in the Coach Training EDU program, I really had to wrestle with the balance between knowledge and empowerment. And really, where does that strike as a coach of you're really not in an advice giving role. And so you're not imparting your knowledge. You're not, in Bahasa Indonesia, we have the word guru, which is the English word, right? Like a guru is a teacher. And this is not like hippy dippy feathers in your hair, you're in Bali and you're suddenly this coaching guru. But it's much more about training in a set of techniques and tools that help you empower your client. And so it's not having all the answers. Whereas when I was a school counselor, especially in doing the university and college guidance, it was very much about having all the answers. So I had to break that mold and break that frame and really lean a lot more into the empowerment sector. The trainers at Coach Training EDU have been really fantastic, and they share along the way in the program their own experiences with starting their coaching business and different models, and they offer their time outside of class as well. And so I took advantage of that. I really asked my trainer specifically some of the obstacles that they've encountered, what they've tried, and they weren't advice giving, but very much in sort of trying to help me frame what my own coaching business would look like. And I think that there was, one of my trainers, Andrew, was great and gave me a really awesome, energizing advice, I would say, or something to think about, which is, your first 5 clients are sort of a hustle. And then 5 to 10, they sort of start building. But then really the sweet spot is when you're getting to say around 15 students, let's say that you're working with, and then it's all referral. Like coaching begets good coaching. And so if someone experiences coaching and knows what it's about, then they want to share that with their friends and they want to share that with their cousins and their other family members. And, you know, um, so I think that really helped me. It's not about the Instagram feed and it's not about the website looking absolutely perfect and it's not about whatever your pricing scale is. It's really just about, good coaching. I'm a daughter of a first grade teacher. And so teachers have always been my greatest influencers. And that's why I became a teacher myself. So I have some really great teachers along the way. And as a teacher myself, some of my best moments were, like that one little thank you note that you would get once a year from a student who was like, Miss, I hated that project, but I loved, that you supported me through it. Or I keep those. I have those thank you notes from all of my students over the years, and I just think teachers are incredible. The teacher that influenced me the most, absolutely, is a guy by the name of Mike Stokes, and he taught me in Miami, Florida. He taught me in my AP European history class, and then the hilarious thing is that after I graduated from college, I went back and I taught at my old high school, and he was my head of department and my mentor, and he would always tell kids, here I was a new teacher, right? And he would always tell kids like, "Oh, she used to just be, like, semi-asleep in the back of the room and trying not to make eye contact with me when she didn't know the answer," and I was like, "What? You're completely blowing my cred. What are you doing?" But he absolutely had the biggest influence on who I became as a teacher. He and I worked together on a lot of outward bound experiential programming at that school. That was a really big formation in sort of the power of pushing your comfort zone as a teenager and what impact that can have on your development as a person. So absolutely Mike Stokes.